I think we all in the past couple of weeks have been paying the close attention to Moldbot OpenClaw situation. It really made a lot of hype in tech community and around. People are getting crazy about it. They obviously concerned with privacy and security. Some are starting philosophical discussion about all the potential outcomes of agents talk to each other. People say it's kind of like a new era. Some guys are buying enormous amounts of Mac Minis to kind of run these moldbots in a separate containers. So the broader community expects it to be a sort of a storm that will overthrow the current order of things. Some people say it's just polluting the internet though. But I mean, looking back in the last couple of years, the internet has been so polluted that it's hard to imagine how it can get worse. But of course it always can. Before we start discussing OpenClaw itself, let's make several steps back and try to remember from where it all has started. Of course it all began with the idea of development these autonomous agents that serve and kind of perform the function, the specific function that we can delegate to them so they can act on our behalf, on behalf of our business. I think it all began on the next year after ChatGPT initial release. People got really excited and immediately jumped on a wagon, starting to kind of develop these software tools that can automate some parts of their routine and the routine of their businesses. And companies began to develop these tools. The most famous was N8N, and it's still working and many people actually find it useful. I also tried building several things with it, and it's actually great for things like first level support. So this is kind of like a fascinating idea that these large language models can act completely autonomously. So it's not a person, it's a model itself waiting for the specific signal that's being programmed by the owner, and when the signal arrives, they start to perform some actions. At least in my mind, that's the definition of the agent. So it's not waiting me to tell it to do something. It expects the signal from the external world, and when the signal arrives, they start performing. So businesses can set up this agentic pipeline, kind of implement it into their routines of their business. They can communicate with clients, so agents talk on the first level of support. It all sounds great on paper, but in reality, many companies kind of abandon this idea and they implement it as just a little tool that supposed to help the existing people in a team, because without the supervision it all can fail and you can miss the potential business opportunity if you, for example, use NIN for communicating with your clients through WhatsApp. It's just a simple example though. So we now just kind of expect the next year always to be kind of like this year of agents where everyone will start adopting and using them broadly. And not just the tech community. I think the purpose here is so that regular people also begin to use these agents and kind of simplify their life here and there. It's not happening though now, so let's be clear here. This is not what is happening. Like the regular people, they're not actually interested in agentic workflows. They're interested in solving their personal problems and completing their tasks on a job and in personal life. So people who are adopting it quickly and more broadly is obviously programmers. And we use these agentic workflows almost every day in our coding sessions. I don't mean the vibe coders, I mean everyone who is just writing code. Of course, we all try to implement this to make our work easier and to develop things faster. At the same time, working professionals who are being in programming for many years, they understand that you cannot just simply ask something from the agent and expect the great result. You need to constantly supervise it, and which is more appropriate, I think, at least for me, you need to clearly understand the limitation of the model so you can delegate the specific task and not rely on it completely. So programmers know that for the serious application development, you cannot rely on agents, because the thing that it constantly fails at least in my experience, is to building the really clean and scalable architecture. Because the idea of just guessing the next more appropriate token, kind of like tokenization of the language and the programming language, is not enough to see the whole picture and architecture and design the system in a way that can scale and adopt and ship new features real fast based on users' feedback. This is not how these agents operate. This is not how this model by design is being set up. And this is where this OpenClaw is coming in. You delegate a whole machine to this. Of course, you can set some boundaries, but that's not what was intended. I think the main idea and intention was to just delegate your whole computer to this agent, and this agent will perform on your behalf using your machine. So you just talk with it like in Telegram or WhatsApp, and you kind of like ask it to start performing several actions, and it performs on your behalf. Or at least it's supposed to be on your behalf. Basically, it can perform any actions, having all of your credentials, having your logins, having your credit card details, like everything, right? That's kind of cool. I'm kidding, of course. It's not really cool from the perspective of privacy, but many people find it cool. So by default, the access is granted, and you need to specify which parts of your computer this bot is not allowed to access. Which is also crazy from development standpoint, because everyone who has been building the real complex system with multiple user types and roles understand that the default setting is permission not granted. Otherwise it will be user disaster right from the beginning. But here is completely different idea, right? That's why they buy these Mac Minis though, because they wanna like kind of run this agents in a separate container, so it's not affecting the personal data, and it just performs the specific action, but it's not actually using their own personal machine or the working machine. But I think the audience of OpenClaw and the fact that OpenAI has bought it is that so regular people will start to adopt it into the everyday life. I think from my perspective, it's more about polluting the web, because these agents are starting to communicate in the web. Many people doubt it though, but at the same time it's clear that the internet is becoming more and more kind of dirty and polluted with artificial and generated stuff. And I mean, it's kind of cool, because what can we do about it? The first path is just to embrace this called slop. Let's just build all the stuff that we can build, forget completely about security, like who cares? Let's just buy as many Mac Minis as possible, so these bots are as powerful as they can be, and let them just ship whatever they want to ship. So we just kind of guide them. Most people are actually not that concerned with privacy, security, all these rules. They just want the problem to be solved, as I said earlier. I think also the part of this widespread adoption of OpenClaw is because it's open source, obviously. It's hard to understand now, is it actually better or worse for this type of product to be open source? I'm really surprised though how many developers are starting to adopt it. Like this new era of internet, without any security, with all the possible slop generated all at once right on your machine. Some people say it's dystopian, some people just don't care. I mean, I kinda in between. Obviously hackers will prompt inject these LLMs, but who cares really? If the whole thing completely exposed, just imagine the world where every machine is completely exposed to the global wide web. In this type of situation, what does it actually mean to have a security? What does it mean to have a privacy? These concepts are becoming so blurred, they start to not even make any sense. I don't want to go deep into philosophical aspects of it, because I actually don't really care anymore. I just kind of find myself imagining this world where all the machines are being controlled by these autonomous agents, and people can't even control it. The second path would be to completely focus on your personal privacy and security. Of course, me personally, I would never install this type of system on my device. This is just absolutely insane to me. Would I do it on a separate machine? Like maybe if I see the clear use case. For now it's all just jokes and vibes, so I am not planning to do it in the nearest future. But speaking of using agents in code, I actually began to use it less and less. Because this is what I actually like about coding. I like to express myself in this craft. I like to sit with my hands on a keyboard and I like to make things work. I like to solve these problems one by one by myself, and by solving these problems I create the idea of the clear architecture that I use across all my projects. And I'm sharing this idea with the teams that I work. That's what I like about programming, to be able to solve the problem yourself and to build the thing that works, that performs great. Do I want to replace it with constant communication in chat with the bot? Obviously not. You can see my video about communication fatigue that I posted recently. That's exactly what I mean. I'm just fucking tired from that. I'm tired from talking to someone, trying to explain what I want to do, when I can just sit and do it myself. And it will be more cleaner, easier to use, easier to maintain. Actually, it will be beautiful. The other thing we should pay attention to is to design for agents. Many people now are starting to build software and design the interfaces, kind of having in mind that agents will use it. That's actually kind of cool and I really like it. At the same time, it's also a bit boring. You know, this whole situation has become so boring to me. Everyone is expecting this agent to be a next breakthrough. They can do now is so limited, everyone is so hyped up. the whole landscape is not healthy. Many people are experiencing mental health issues because of enormous level of stress coming from this feeling of constantly being behind. But for me, once again, it's all just becoming really boring. I'm not bored when I build things myself and I see how they perform, but to talk with these agents over and over again, guys, please, really. Of course, we all will be pushed to this, because otherwise this whole market gonna crash. Yeah, let's just use it here and there, but you know. What I want from myself and from you guys here is just not getting into the stress and anxiety because of this feeling that we are all kind of behind something and we all need to start vibe coding like 10 stupid projects a day. Once again, my idea is to focus on my craft. Coming from design background, I mostly focused on user interface, but you can be focused on whatever you want. The thing is just to embrace the craft, not embracing the slop. Bye bye.